Hello again, YouTube. Carl Belcher here. A little while back, I took part in the Reddit Everyday Carry Swap, and this is a package I got from my Secret Santa, so I thought I would share it with you guys. This is a paracord survival grenade from the Friendly Swede. Kind of an interesting looking little product. You know, I'm definitely a fan of keychain stuff, and I'm definitely a fan of survival stuff, so it was a pretty cool thing to get from my partner. It's got a little card here that says what it contains. Looks like it has some tin foil, some tinder, fire starter, which I assume is a ferro rod, a knife blade, which looks like a scalpel blade, some fishing line, some swivels, some weights, some floats, and some fishing line. It looks like there might even be hooks attached to the fishing line, which would be really cool because tying knots could be a little tedious in fishing line. So if they're already tied, that's definitely kind of handy. One problem I have with this kit and many small pre-made survival kits is that they do have their priorities a little out of line for survival as far as I'm concerned. Of course, if you go by the rules of 3, you can survive 3 hours without shelter in the worst possible conditions, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. So while it's nice that this has a way to affect food catching, or affect food with the fishing stuff, I feel like it's not as important as some other things. Now, unlike some of these small paracord kits I've seen, this one does have tin foil, which may have the possibility of being used to boil water, which would be really excellent because one of the problems I had with the Bison Designs is it didn't have any way of a container or a way to store water. So it doesn't really help with water, which is one of the primary things you're going to need. The fire does help with shelter in a way because it's going to provide heat, which may keep you from freezing to death, may keep you from, dying of hypothermia in cold conditions, and it helps you dry out. It can help you boil water, it can help you cook food. So that's certainly a very important thing. So I'm always glad to see fire starting in these. And cordage is good. This has, I believe, 7 foot of paracord. So that's good to see too. This is a nice high quality metal carabiner on it. It says the Friendly Swede there on it. Spring gate. I'm going to go ahead and take this jute twine little cord off here. So it's kind of out of our way as we're filming. It's probably an easier way to take that off, but I didn't really want to tear it. Just want it to be nice and quick. So we'll get that out of our way. Set that aside. You could also use that cord as tinder, but I think it has some built in, so we're not going to worry too much about that. As with most paracord things, I see it has some melted ends here, and it also has an odd little loop up here at the top of this carabiner is through. So I'm not entirely sure which way you're supposed to take it apart. It doesn't come with any directions. My assumption is we're going to start with these melted ends right here. So let's take a look and see how easy those are to get apart. If not, I might take the carabiner out and see if it comes out from that way, because that's something that may be a possibility as well. They're definitely very well melted, which is kind of nice because it's not going to come apart. But on the other hand, if I was cold and freezing to death, I would not want to be fighting this. There, I kind of got it loose. Looks like it's going to come out now. This is like a Cobra stitch, it looks like. So, these are not the easiest thing to unwrap, but they're not the worst either. So that end's loose. Let's see if I can get this other end loose. Yep, that one's loose now. And we'll start unwrapping this like you would any other Cobra stitch. It actually looks like it's kind of double Cobra stitch because there's another layer underneath there, which is cool. A little more extra length. That was another complaint I had with the Bison Designs ones I did a video on earlier, is that it had 2 separate lengths of paracord that turned out to be very short, under 3 foot apiece. So definitely nice to have the longer cordage. It does say on their website that this is true 550 cord, so hopefully it's a little better quality than the Bison Design stuff too, but we'll see. I intend to kind of cut it open and take a look for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and keep unwrapping this. This is my problem with Cobra stitch. This would not be a lot of fun to do if my hands were freezing cold. It takes a lot of dexterity even with nice warm hands out here in my shed. So let's keep getting this unwrapped real quick. About done with the first layer. You start seeing the tin foil underneath, which is going to be the tin foil that says included, which Has me worried a little bit because it looks like it may not be in the best of shape. And tinfoil is a little hard to get to hold water anyway, so we'll see how that turns out. But let's unwrap this definitely much looser or wider inner weave here. This is one reason, like when I usually make paracord bracelets, I like to use a Senate type design because they're much easier to unwrap. Because I keep saying it, but it bears mentioning that Cobra Stitch is not much fun to unwrap. So, or the Solomon bar, if you want to go by the other name, which is kind of I believe the more correct name, but I suppose either one is perfectly acceptable. Getting down to the bottom here. Looks like there's some clear kind of packing tape sealing the aluminum there. You can kind of see. So we'll see how that is to take apart. Definitely looks like I went about unwrapping it the right way, because there's no way I would have pulled that inner cord out that goes around the carabiner like I thought I might be able to. And so far it's looking like it is one contiguous strand, which would be really nice. Keep in mind too that I do a fair bit of work with paracord, so I'm actually kind of used to untying these, and this is still kind of laborious. Alright, yeah, it is one big contiguous strand. That came apart. Oh, but it tore the tinfoil really bad. I don't really like that tape on the tinfoil. Let's try. Oh man, it's just tearing it apart. And this is paper thin aluminum foil. Alright, there's the piece of paracord and the carabiner. This has a nice high quality metal carabiner. Decent paracord. It's kind of got some notches and stuff in it from being wrapped, it looks like, and melted. They definitely melted it a little too much, but it does look like 7 foot to me, so that's not bad. However, I'm really disappointed that the tinfoil tore so bad. So let's try to see what we can salvage from it. Looks like there's a Ziploc baggie inside here, probably for waterproofing and to kind of keep everything together. Now, this is a lot easier to unwrap than the Bison Designs as well. The duct tape in that one is very difficult. Yep, little Ziploc baggie. This tinfoil is pretty much toast. It was crinkled to start with, and it's just mashed together. So salvaging something you could boil water out of, not even going to happen. Too small of a piece to begin with. Not quite sure what the survival use of this small piece of tinfoil would be. Maybe for signaling, maybe to put a tiny amount of water in. Oh wow, it's even folded. It's paper thin before it was folded. And they're even, not sure if those pieces tore, if they came separately, but that's not very impressive to me. So I'm very disappointed in the tinfoil in here. On the picture, it's kind of a nice little wrapped package. I was hoping maybe it was inside the aluminum foil and was something I could salvage, but this tinfoil is a write-off as far as I'm concerned. Let's go ahead and open up this little bag and take a look at what we have inside. Obviously we kind of already know, but I want to see the quality of it. I think it's interesting that the tinder, it looks like jute twine on here, and it may in fact be jute twine, but it's already kind of fluffed. It's already taken apart and stranded. Yeah, it definitely feels like jute twine to me. Nice and dry, double bagged, which is nice for protection. It's nice that you don't have to tear it up. One of the problems with the Bison Designs survival keychain as well is that the jute got kind of gummed up by the duct tape's adhesive and was hard to use. This stuff's already pretty torn up. It's already nice and soft. That should catch a spark decently well. So we might give that a try here in a little while. You can see a couple little split shot weights. Actually, those are not split shots. They are sliding. So I honestly am not too much of a bait fisherman. I have done quite a bit of fishing, but primarily it's spinner fishing, kind of trolling off a boat. So Not my expertise bait fishing wise. This is the scalpel blade, and it is a very small, oh no, this is actually not this. Oh, that's cool. This was not listed on the package. However, this is really cool. This is a saturated isopropyl alcohol cleaning pad. Now, it's a couple pretty awesome uses. First of all, it's excellent for disinfecting wounds, and even more importantly, in this case, this is excellent for taking a spark from a ferro rod. This is an excellent little fire starter. So I'm surprised they didn't include that on this little sheet, but that's actually a very nice surprise. That's really cool. This is the monofilament fishing line. It looks like it is a pretty fine line. It is nice and clear, so it should be pretty easy to use even on skittish mountain stream fish. I just worry about the test. It looks like it could be a little low test for some kinds of fish. But for survival use, you're probably not going to be catching anything huge anyway. Here is, you got to watch out for the hooks. They are exposed in there. This is the scalpel blade. You know, I'm probably not going to open this up. It's just a regular run-of-the-mill scalpel blade. Maybe if I do a demo of the fire starter, I'll try to use this as a striker. So we'll save that. I'll go through the rest of the stuff. Oh, here we go. Here's some more tin foil, and it's wrapped up. So this could actually be the tin foil they're referring to. So let's see how big of a piece this is. This is nicely wrapped, so this is actually reusable. That's a good thing. And it's not folded too tightly that you can't unfold it. With a little bit of care, it's certainly easy to open up. And this is actually, even though it's a very thin tin foil, it's actually a pretty big piece. As we can see, we're still opening it up here. I'm trying to be careful with it because it is pretty thin. I don't want to tear it. Let's go ahead and open this up and see how big this gets. Holy cow. And we are still double thick at this point. Wow, that's impressive. Let's carefully unravel that. That is a large piece of tinfoil. I'm very impressed. A little bit of a tear there in the corner, but not bad. This is very thin, but it's wrapped nicely enough that you could certainly boil some water in that. You could make a nice little container for boiling water. Simply just kind of wrapped up, fold your edges in, and you could actually contain a fair amount of water in this. You definitely want to make it a little more durable than fold it a little bit more durably than that. You could definitely fold that into a usable water container. I'm glad to see that. This kit's actually turning out a lot better than I expected. I was all ready to be extremely critical of this, but it's actually more well thought out than I expected. Here is one of the two floats. Looks like there's another one in the bag here. Bright yellow floats. They are pretty small, but probably not really an issue. Again, I haven't done too much bait fishing, so before I tried to use this kit, I would certainly want to do a little bit more research on the exact way you'd want to rig this up. But they're kind of hard to see, but there are really fine wires on these that you could tie to the line pretty easily. So two of those should be enough to, or one of each of those. Looks like there's basically two fishing setups because there's two hooks right here. These are pre-attached to the line, which is nice. This hook is a little big in my opinion for survival use. You know, it's a common misconception that the bigger the hook, the bigger the fish you're going to catch. That's just simply not the case. Especially if you're trying to go for any fish available, this would limit you to pretty large fish. Maybe something they could even break the line. So I'd like to see a little bit smaller hook than that. This is probably about the right size. Maybe slightly too large, but this is a much better size. I can accept that. Nice barb, looks like a pretty high quality hook. I do like that it is pre-attached to a lead. That makes it much easier to do a little fishing setup. You could pretty easily slide a sinker, tie this to your longer piece of line, put a sinker on there, put your bait, drop it down to the bottom, make sure you had a float tied on there so you can see it bobbing up at the top and doesn't all sink down in the mud. And I could see catching a fish. Honestly, I'm not going to do a demo of the fishing because I don't particularly like bait fishing, and I don't particularly want to learn it just for this video. It's something I need to practice in my own time, and I can't say I'm an expert on it, so I would hate to judge this kit based on my fishing skill. So we'll probably leave it as a kit, but it is the basics of what you would need. It also does have some swivels in here, it looks like. So these are 2 little swivels, which could make attaching stuff like the sinkers or even the hooks to the line a little bit easier. Last but not least, it looks like in this little package, which is fairly fine paper, which you may even be able to use for tinder as well. I'm assuming this is the ferro rod. Some really thin paper. That's actually a much better ferro rod than the one that came with the Bison Designs kit. The one the Bison Designs kit was about 1 inch long and was very hard to hold on to. This one is actually bigger than the one on my Keychain Magnesium Striker. So this is small, but still usable size for a ferro rod. So this is actually a pretty nice little kit. As I've said before, I feel like the survival priorities are a little bit out of whack on some of these kits. However, I realize that shelter is a pretty hard thing to bring with you. And I'm also very glad to see that this wasn't the only foil in there, that actually had this big old huge piece. So that's actually a fairly decent kit. This was, as isopropyl alcohol pad was actually a really great surprise for me. I didn't expect to see that in here. It wasn't listed, but this makes fire starting with that ferro rod much more feasible. So let's go ahead and open up the scalpel blade and maybe see if I can get some sparks off this little ferro rod with it. Gotta be really careful opening this guy up because that is a scalpel blade and we don't want to end up with any blood in this video. I know I don't, maybe you guys do, but I prefer not to. Now, this is definitely a cutting tool. It would work great for gutting a fish. However, its use as a ferro rod striker is not ideal. It does have a fairly kind of sharp spine, but there again, it's slightly rounded, and it would definitely destroy the blade to use the blade as a striker. So if it's possible at all to use the backside of this, I'm gonna scrape off some of the oxidation on there. You can definitely see that we're starting to get down to some silver. So that's actually a pretty good sign. So we may be able to get a spark off this yet. Whew. It's a very, very flexible little tool with a very sharp edge on it. It's just not a very sharp edge. I can't bear down on it very much because it's so small. This is another problem with these kits. It's almost impossible to get a strike off this. And I can't bear down on this at all without worrying about cutting myself. My only opportunity left to get a spark is to use the blade, which is going to destroy the scalpel blade. But it's already opened anyway, so let's give it a try. Oh, we got a little spark there. Oh, there's a spark. Oh, this is a terrible striking tool. We're just knocking the tinder around at this point. Hold on for a second. Let me get a better striking tool, and we'll see if we can get a little bit, we can test out this tinder a little better. All right, and I'm back. I have just a little piece of hacksaw blade, which is actually supplied as a striker for a lot of ferrocerium rod tools. So I was gonna go ahead and try this. You might note our tinder is a little charred. That's because between when I was filming, I was just testing to make sure the striker worked, and the jute immediately caught. So, see if I can reproduce that here on camera for you guys. It's actually really easy to do. I'm very surprised with this tinder. Let's see if I can get a good spark again here. Of course, it's not near as easy on camera as it was before. Boom. Caught right away as soon as I got a good strike on it. So that's actually really good tinder. Excellent dry. You guys saw the difficulty I had with ferro rod in the Bison Designs kit. So that's quite a difference. The other thing I wanted to go ahead and try for you guys real quick was to take a look at this alcohol prep pad. These usually are excellent fire tinder. So let's go ahead and give that a shot too. You see I add a little piece of 2x4 on top of the work surface because I don't really want to make a mess of it. This ferro rod is still very small, which makes it really hard to use and grip. I'd hate to do it in the freezing cold, but it's certainly better than nothing. So let's see if we can get another good spark here. And there we go, that's burning. So definitely much more usable fire tinder and fire starter and fire steel. So like pretty decent little piece of ferrocerium. It's definitely big enough to use. However, the big problem is, let's try as hard as I cannot get a spark off of this scalpel blade. You can see I tore up the edge of the blade pretty good. Trying, it's just far too flimsy, far too sharp. You're gonna cut yourself, or it's just not gonna work like it did for me. So this is definitely a miss. However, it's better than no cutting tool at all. And you could probably find a sharp edge on something to use. Hopefully you have a knife with you or something like that if you're going out anyway. But overall, fairly happy with this kit, especially with the fire starting. It's much better than you saw in the Bison Designs kit. So again, that was the Friendly Swede Paracord Series Paracord Carabiner Survival Grenade with a couple surprises. Pleasantly surprised. Still not a product I would want to completely trust my life to, but it would certainly be better than nothing. So I appreciate you guys. Make sure to subscribe. I have a lot more content coming out for you guys soon. Make sure to leave me any comments you have, and like if you enjoyed the video. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.